Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all, so don't mess up. Monday nights, don't miss the show with Kendall and Stuart. Your time to grow, listen up, take notes and learn. The Big Potato Podcast, next gen's turn. It's next gen's
Welcome back
turn.
to season 2 of the Big Potato Podcast. That's right. What a time to be alive. Season 2. We had a full first season of our podcast, and I'm telling you, we are very proud of it. We spoke to some wonderful, amazing entrepreneurs out there doing big things in their fields and in their industries. And I'm really, really happy with how season 1 went. And now it's all about season 2, episode 1. And it's the Big Potato Podcast. So if you missed season 1 and you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. This is where we empower entrepreneurs for today's business landscape. It's all about light-hearted discussion, delivering strategic business insights. And we've touched on so many industries in the first season. Let me take the time to thank you guys for always following us on the social media platforms, listening to each and every episode, catching up on the episodes that you may have missed, and welcome back for season 2. Remember, you can follow us at the Big Potato Podcast across all social media platforms, and make sure you hit like and subscribe, especially to the Spotify and YouTube channels. So, without further ado, let me bring my co-host Stuart in. Stuarty, welcome back, bro.
Hey, Kendall, we back. It's been a break. It's been, like 2 weeks? But we're back. Man. Actually, was missing it, missing the audience.
Yeah. So and we're back and refreshed, and good to go. Fresh perspectives, new insights, and during the course of the season, lots of surprises to come. So we won't waste time. In season 1, our first episode, we started off with an entrepreneurial conversation, really laying the foundation and the platform for what was to come. And we said, you know what? Let's amplify that a bit in season 2, episode 1. Let's get a real kingpin entrepreneur in with us, a real mogul, a person who understands entrepreneurship. Matter of fact, let me give you a little bit of his bio before we even introduce his name. He's a proven entrepreneur with a track record of sales and customer service, CEO of Rojan Marketing Limited, a leader in business-to-business distribution of institutional supplies. His background, he will tell us a lot more about his background, but he is a proven entrepreneur, proven leader in manufacturing, sales, distribution, innovation. He served as a director of Langston Roach Industries. Guess what, Stuart? He has a master's in business development and innovation out of Atalokchak.
Wow, that sounds familiar.
Another survivor.
A survivor.
He's an advocate for entrepreneurial progress. Yeah. Former president of the San Juan Business Association. Serves on numerous boards. UTT, YBTT. Even an executive director in the Greater Tunapuna Chamber of Commerce. So as I said, we had to amplify it for the first episode and lay the foundation tonight. Please welcome to the Big Potato Podcast, Mr. Jason Roach. Jason, what's up, bro?
I'm very good. I'm very pleased for you all to have me on this podcast. I'm really looking forward to the segment and to see how we can bring some great ideas to your audiences.
Appreciate that, man. I mean, a man with a wealth of knowledge, not just in his current disposition and dispensation, but he has a legacy and a history of success. And I'm sure even some pitfalls that he will tell us about and help us as younger entrepreneurs to understand how to get past those challenges. So let's jump into segment 1. It's all about what caught our eye. And by now you know how it goes. Quick, key entrepreneurial insights on articles or stories of significance, brought to you by IBOMAQ. And I'll kick it off this week. Came across an article on Entrepreneur, the website. That's the actual website. You could check it out, entrepreneur.com. All you entrepreneurs, business leaders out there, lots of good stuff there. And it's entitled, You Don't Need Venture Capital Anymore. Here are 4 funding alternatives. So if you're hoping to raise capital for your business without a traditional interference by an investor, here are 4 alternatives that you can pursue. And this is from July 2024, so it's pretty relevant. It goes, venture capital isn't the only way to fund a startup, as we know, but we're telling you now, entrepreneurs can explore crowdfunding, angel investors, bootstrapping, and even grants. So let's get into it. Crowdfunding. Let me tell you a little bit about crowdfunding. And we see a lot of crowdfunding actually happening even right here in Trinidad and Tobago these days. And this is really where you as the entrepreneur, the business owner, engage your customer base to build capital. Long and short of the story. It entails setting a goal and requesting your customers to contribute. It's an excellent model for funding and even for pre-sales. Because while you're getting the funding, you're also introducing your potential customers to your products and services. So you could build some pre-sales. There are lots of websites that you can do crowdfunding on. There are a lot of different ways that you can also get involved in crowdfunding. So check it out. You know, we ain't going into too much detail about it. We're just giving you the tip and you can check it out further. When can you consider this? If your product is creative, innovative, and customer focused. You see a lot of crowdfunding happening, especially in the real estate industry. Happens a lot of times where they take the money up front, ready to capitalize their project. Before you even get the house, sometimes you already paid for it. So that's one. Of course, you can approach angel investors, very similar to venture capitalists, but angel investors more invest on a personal level. Sometimes wealthy individuals looking for intriguing and creative startups. Sometimes in industries that they already know. And really and truly, they try to push forward your idea. Now, they may want some ownership. They may want some shares. They may want a seat on the board. So you never know. So if you're an early stage startup that needs more capital, you can consider an angel investor. You also have grants. And in our country, we have a lot of government grants, particularly for NGOs and that sort of stuff. Entrepreneurs, there are a lot of grants out there as well. So you can consider applying for some of these grants to try to finance your enterprise as well. And then we have the good old bootstrapping. Stuart.
Bootstrapping, boy.
We bootstrapping, yeah, you know.
Yeah. tight.
Right. And you know, it's really about using your capital as an entrepreneur. Limited resources, and you're finding real creative ways to push your idea forward with limited cash and capital. So this option may be viable if time isn't crucial. You could accomplish similar things without capital. And you know, I mean, getting there might take you a little longer. But your intelligence, your innovation, your determination will allow you to create value with limited financial resources. So those are 4 quick kind of tip of the iceberg ways that you could fund your enterprise as an entrepreneur. And I wanted to get Jason in on this as a seasoned entrepreneur and now a CEO, business owner, business leader in terms of entrepreneurs coming up and those 4 areas? Any feedback?
Well, finance is a very pivotal part of an entrepreneurship venture, particularly startups, right? There are many different ways, as you would have listed out some options. There's also really putting together a solid idea and making the commitment to invest in your idea. I think this is one of the things that where a lot of entrepreneurs fall short, because when you go to an investor, right? Whether you want to call it an angel investor or you want to go to a bank, right? One of the precursors they evaluate to know if they invest in you is to really understand if you are willing to make the sacrifice to make your idea a success. Right? It's something that is very underappreciated, right? Because if you are not prepared to put up some form of seed capital for your business, then you really can't expect someone to invest in you, right? Because then you would really be using someone's finance, easy money, in a simpleton tool. And do you really have the commitment when you go and get stuff? And when I talk about entrepreneurship, people ask me, well, why entrepreneurship, and what really makes a good entrepreneur? And that is, you have to answer the question of why are you going into business? Because people can go into business for a multitude of different reasons. They want to make a social impact. They want to have a good product. They want to make money, obviously, right? But it is very important to answer that question, because when the going gets tough and you turn to different corners for, let's say, financing, and it's not really working out, you have to come back to that question to continue motivating you to persevere. Yeah. So those are my 2 cents where financing is concerned. I think a lot of people really make finance a hurdle, I should say, into getting started. When you start with a business idea and you really solidify it, you work out your model, and you really get an idea that works. You could do things like piloting that idea on a smaller scale to really test your theory, to understand if this idea is worth investing in. So when you go to a financer, right, an angel investor, the bank, or even looking for a grant, right, you can prove to them that the idea that you have is a solid one and it is worth investing in.
Yep. You have your prototype, you have your minimal viable product. And I mean, even to that, Jason, and I want to bring Stuart in really quick, you had to have a solid business plan as well.
Well, when it comes to a business plan, I personally believe a business plan is very simple. Right? Any entrepreneur that is interested in doing a business plan, I will always point them in the direction of learning and understanding and perfecting the business canvas, which is a tool to really sift out an idea, looking at the wider external environment, your strengths, the cons of going into this idea, what will impact it, the socio-economic impact on that idea.
Yep.
Your model, how do you actually intend to monetize that idea? What is the expense structure behind it? Right? That is what a business plan really is. Just that the business plan goes a little beyond in terms of research and backing your idea with research, because you're just not going to pull an idea, a pie in the sky, and just jump into it. You really have to do research and get qualitative data, quantitative data, and back that idea up. So you have
Correct.
done your homework. So when you go to your financer, you really know what you're talking about, and that makes it a lot easier for them to invest in you.
No, I agree with everything being said so far. My 2 cents would be that this list was it's something stood out in the list to me. The fact that the banks weren't really there, even though Jason mentioned the banks there. I think it's very important for startups to understand that yes, you want to get finance, but you have to choose the right type of finance for your stage. Not every time you'll want to get a loan and have this monthly payment, which will affect your free cash flow, especially as a startup, a brand new business now trying to generate revenue. You might even make $1 for the first couple of months because you're still setting up your structures or whatever you're doing with your processes and so. But you already have these monthly payments to pay. So you're already behind the ball. So I like the 4 that they identified. And also another thing, the crowdfunding. People always think, the GoFundMe, all these things. But a simple thing like membership subscriptions in advance of your product launching. Like, I don't want to call it a name, but I will call it. Like PriceSmart. You have your membership cards, people sign up in advance, and then they have the same capital that you mentioned, Kendall, to roll out, to build out, to improve and to set up. So just want to add my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well said.
Any comments on that, Jason?
Yeah, well, you're very correct, right? It also depends on the type of business that you're starting as well, right?
Yes.
Like one of the buzz business in the last decade, I would say, is social entrepreneurship, right? And this is a form of entrepreneurship that really looks at social impact. What value is your business or your business idea going to add to society? And from that perspective, you ever heard the term of when you start a business or a brand or a product, you really want to tell a story?
Yes.
Right?
Is key.
So what social entrepreneurship really do is that it tells a story about solving that social problem and having impact on society. And you find for a business that is modeled that way or going on that trajectory, it's easy to go down the financing route of GoFundMe, because what you're really doing is that you are telling a story about solving a social ill or a social problem, right? And it has its emotional connections in it as well. There are a lot of people that are very interested in solving environmental issues, climate change,
Yes.
pollution. Even in our country here, we have a lot of socio-economic problems. So when you really craft your idea in that way and package it, I want to solve a social problem. So the emotional connection throughout the wider arena to get this finance in, it really appeals to the people that are on that trajectory of that problem.
And actually, my favorite social entrepreneurship in Trinidad is a business called the Big Potato Podcast.
It is. Youth social entrepreneurship program.
Those guys trying their best to make an impact.
All investors.
Yeah.
No, but it's real what you're saying there. Social entrepreneurship. I tell people, all I'm focused on right now is addressing the best problems and problems that matter. I only want to deal with things that matter. Even the ideas and the demographics and the type of people I try to appeal to with my projects must be impactful. It can't just be about making $1. So social entrepreneurship, we know about that on the Big Potato Podcast.
For sure.
Let me give you an example. Right, so I'm on YBTT board. Right, this is Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago. It's part of it's an imprint of Youth Business International, right? And what this institution really do is that we go after international grants and raise funding, right? And we bring this funding back to Trinidad and we evaluate business ideas, right? People that come up with a concept, and we actually have a program which is Jumpstart, right?
Right.
So you'll come in, you'll enroll into the program. We'll teach you skills. We'll teach you about the business canvas and make sure that your idea is solid. So I face I really see a lot of business ideas, right? And what my deciphering point always returns back to, why do you want to start a business?
Mm-hmm.
Simply because there are different people start businesses for different reasons, and one of the mistakes that I try to have people not make is to start a business just to earn a quick buck, right? And maybe the person who has the idea have no choice because they have to survive. But when you get into the realm of trying to make a quick buck, I find people who evaluate business ideas from that perspective don't really go into all the nitty-gritty on understanding how they are going to perfect their model, how they are going to create a sustainable business. In Trini term, you don't want to start a hustle.
Exactly.
Yeah. You want to start something that, that can carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Sustainability. And that's a very good point, Jason. And I thank you for that. And on that note, let me bring Stuart in. Stuart, what caught your eye this week?
Well, actually, I wanted to take it easy this week. We're not returning, so I kind of wanted to come back with some good news. So,
boy.
basically, my message is, don't be afraid. Greatness, passion, resilience abounds in the Caribbean. All right? No. So basically, I came across this article from the Global Entrepreneurship Research Association from the London Business School. Now, this article is from February 2024. And they were analyzing a global report, 25 years and growing. But what stuck out from this article, from this report, I should say, is they were stating, surprisingly, that Latin America and the Caribbean is one of the highest levels, in fact, the highest level of entrepreneurship in the world.
Amazing.
I was surprised. I thought, Silicon Valley and, Japan and Shenzhen, all these places. And when they really say that the Caribbean and Latin America are the most resilient, and I thought about it as like almost everyone I know has a job and a hustle, as Jason mentioned there. So it really kind of made sense. Some people have 2 and 3, and they're just trying to maintain. And apparently there would have been this link between, lower income in economies and the rate of entrepreneurship, which is self-evident. And they also went on to state that the lower income economies, they tend to start up consumer service businesses, as opposed to the other regions and economies. They focus on totally different things. And then they also mentioned that in the Caribbean and Latin America, the expectation for employment from the entrepreneurs is higher than everywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We expect to hire 6 employees in our first 5 years of operation. Other countries, other economies, they don't operate like that. They, especially now with all the automation and AI, and so they want to hire 1 or 2 people for the max. So in a nutshell, the Caribbean, we always on the grind, always trying to come up with some new ideas, some innovation, trying to do something. Generally, they will occur within the consumer services industry. and our entrepreneurs tend to hire, or at least we hope to, we plan to hire more people than the other economies. So I just found that so amazing.
That's very interesting, and rightfully so. Third world countries tend to be more entrepreneurial. It's a known fact, and that has to do with the market structure, right? First world countries, they have a more developed capital structure, a better outlined market structure. They have a lot of government support programs, that slows down entrepreneurship because you have jobs available and good paying jobs in those economies. You could make a career in a first world country and be fairly well off.
Right.
In a third world country, it doesn't quite work that way. So people really have to become innovative to be successful and live above what the average economic line is. So, and if you really look at it in hindsight, when you look at all these philanthropists from these first world countries, right? Going back to the purpose of YBTT, these set grants that we go after, they're specifically designed to filter into third world countries, right? Because that is a global issue. How do we pass on resources to get more scalable, sustainable, and impactful businesses from around the world to come up to a level where it can really do human good for the world?
Yeah.
So I totally agree with the sentiments of that article.
Fantastic.
What about you, Kendall?
Yeah, well, before we wrap up this segment, I think that you could see it. The energy is there, the spirit is there. We talked a lot in the last season about the characteristics and the traits of an entrepreneur. And I'm sure within your own networks, your own circles out there, the audience listening, you yourself might be an entrepreneur or have an entrepreneurial spirit, but I'm certain that at least 5 or 6 people, as Stuart said, who have their own business, who are pursuing their own business, who would like to start their own business. And even as Jason said, not just as a hustle, they are looking at branching out into entrepreneurship as a full-on career, as a full-on lifelong career. People starting off small and they're scaling. And as Jason said, the opportunities are there. If it is you just have your reasoning, your passion, and your why to get started and to fulfill what that dream is. And on that note, that's how we wrap up this first segment. It's called What Caught Our Eye, brought to you by IBOMAQ. Do you have a business idea or looking to innovate your existing business? Get a free one-on-one 1-hour consultation with the Big Potato Podcast team. We'll help you assess your business potential and maximize its value. Whether it's mentorship, coaching, or consulting, we've got you covered. Don't miss out. Check out our social media for details. Presented by IBOMAQ Consulting. And we're back. What a conversation we're already having. Stuart boy, a real mogul we bring on tonight, eh?
Yeah, so far the conversation's been deep.
And we haven't even really gotten started. So let's get into the meat of the matter. Our special guest tonight, Mr. Jason Roach. As I said, the best part, I think, of his bio that really, for the lack of a better term, caught my eye is he is an advocate for entrepreneurial progress. You see that? When I saw that on the man's bio, I say, yeah, boy, this is the man we need to talk to. So, Jason, the floor is yours now. Tell us a little bit about how you got started. For the people who may not know the history of Jason Roach and the legacy of the Roach family. Really and truly, how did you carve out your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, it is a very fascinating and a long story, yeah? But I'll try to summarize it.
Mm-hmm.
My entrepreneurial journey, I have to say that I'm very fortunate to have grown up in an entrepreneurial family.
Mm-hmm.
And most people will think that my inspiration for entrepreneurship would come from my father. And actually, it's not quite so. My entrepreneurship ambitions came from my grandfather,
Mm.
who is of Chinese origin.
Okay.
And
Okay.
he cook his Chinese food and sell his Chinese food in Port of Spain on his van, right? And I would have been with him going to the market, putting in that work, moving around with your grandparents and with your grandparents and seeing
Right.
the discipline that it took to really make what it is he was doing a success, right? And I would always ask, why some people work and why some people don't.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of why is he doing what it is he's doing. And he was very clear in his mind that he did not want to work for anybody.
Hmm.
And he was very clear in his mind that he didn't want any of his children working for anybody.
Mhm.
Obviously, it didn't quite work out that way, right? Some people have ambitions to be doctor and whatever career they want to pursue. But that really took a hold on me.
Right.
And ever since I was 9, I was always looking for some sort of entrepreneurial venture to get in, as small as my first attempt at starting a business. You probably call it a hustle, because I needed to get some money to buy some nice sneakers. Right?
Right.
So I would have asked him for some money to buy a Nike, and he said no. He said, come up with an idea and come and tell me how you're going to make this idea work, and let's work at that, and you could earn your money from that. And I say, well, okay. And I thought about it for a couple of days, and I say, well, I want to sell newspaper. There's no newspaper selling in Belmont, right? And he said, well, okay. And I needed to go to Newsday to get these newspaper, and he didn't make it easy. So I needed a trolley to go and get these papers, and he worked out terms on how much I'm renting his trolley for.
Wow. Well, you showing the reality.
Yes. So I didn't understand it at that point in time, but he was already crafted in my mind. It is not as easy as you think. You have to put in your work. You have commitments. You have to keep an eye on your expenses. And these type of conversations I was having from a very young age, right? And when I was old enough to actually work, I started going into my father's factory, because my father is also an entrepreneur. He started his business um, in a garage. He got a loan, a $10,000 loan from his mother, and he would have bought chemicals and packaging, and he would have mixed up some cleaning products,
Right.
because he would have studied chemistry in UE at the time.
Right.
And he would make these products, and he would drive around and sell them to housewives in their homes, because
Right.
the standard of the packaging back then, it wasn't quite easy to get into supermarkets, so he had to find a creative way to do it.
Mhm.
And that strategy for market entry is something that is still an essential part in our business today, right? The van program is no more. It lasted 30 years, but even the ladies that worked on that van that retired, you know, as old as they are and as young as they are, because they are young at heart, but just, age is just a number. They still come to the factory and buy these products and go into communities and market them.
Wow.
So that was a very sustainable part of the success of Language Industries. Just fast tracking a bit, I would have worked in my father's company, understanding the business inside out. There's not a department in that manufacturing company that I haven't worked in, right? And we came up with the idea at a point in time, to focus specifically on B2B business. So my business was actually birthed inside of Language Industries.
Right.
And I did that from a very young age, and when I said that I'm fortunate, everyone don't have that type of environment to be privileged to try ideas like that under the wings of something else that is successful to hold your hand.
Correct.
But it wasn't an easy journey. It took me probably about 10 years, because even when I was going to university, Roy Tech, and I was working on my business.
Right.
Everything that I studied, right? I studied because I was actively in my business and I was trying to acquire information that could benefit my business. And that's just how my mind worked. The funny thing is, my master's degree in business development and innovation, I did not choose to do that. It was actually my father that said, you're a very innovative guy. You should go and study this master's degree, right? I didn't really understand from a technocrat standpoint what innovation was.
Right.
And yeah, I went into cohort 1 in IMBDI, right? And I realized that when I started to learn about innovation and business development, the experiences and the information that I had, it was a walk in the park for me. I realized that I had a lot more knowledge than people that were actually teaching the course.
Well,
right?
Let's not even get into that.
That is a blessing, right? But it did reinforce what I already knew, learned, and I applied it to my business. And here we are today. That Rojan is a successful B2B company. It's probably the largest B2B distributor, I would say, in the Caribbean that's specific to B2B distribution. Right? Even getting to a point now where we are actually exporting. So
yeah,
I have done well for myself, and going on to that, continuing on that journey, and going back into wanting to accelerate entrepreneurs and passing on knowledge. One of the greatest compliments of an entrepreneur is to replicate yourself. In fact, as a leader, you should strive to replicate yourself. If you're not replicating yourself, you're not really making social impact as a leader, right? And that is the philosophy that I have. And I try to take my experiences, people who I know around me that have business ideas, I make myself most present to walk them through it, to flush it out with them, give a different perspective, right? And in some instances, I may even invest in that idea if I really believe in it, So that is the crux of how I got started into entrepreneurship, right? Language Industries today is the largest indigenous manufacturing company in the Caribbean, right? Rojan is the largest sole B2B distributor in the Caribbean, right? We also have a garment factory that manufacture Oxford shirts, polos, and we just recently got into African fabrics, right?
Okay.
So we are doing well for ourselves. I have four brothers, and they are all entrepreneurs. I mean, when you grow up in an entrepreneurial house, you have I think you really have no choice but to become an entrepreneur, because once you learn how to create value on your own, you wouldn't look back.
And it's interesting, Jason, that you mentioned that, because that actually is the next note right here in front of me. Family business. Basically, perspectives on coming from an entrepreneurial family. And you hit the nail on the head right there. When you come from a household from that. And I mean, it's so good to talk to the guys on this podcast, Stuart, because for me, I would have said the story started with his dad. I was expecting him to say that. But when he came with the grandfather.
When he came with the Asian grandfather.
You know, you had to rent that trolley.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But I love, in terms of that journey, there are a lot of insights in there as well. Before I jump over to Stuart, we're talking about opportunity scanning, even from a young age, realizing where the gaps were in his area and saying, hey, no people selling here. I could jump on this and do something. And you could tell that really carried on throughout your career and throughout the journey up to where you are now. Because as you said, even now you're expanding, you're diversifying, you're exporting, you're looking at different markets. So it does show that the foundation was really set there and continues to go throughout. And I want to congratulate you and your family on everything that you've done and continue to do.
Yeah. Well, family business, it has its blessings and it has its headaches. You know, I would say one of the things that we actively do as a entrepreneurial family is that we continuously survey not only Trinidad but throughout the Caribbean, throughout the world, of other successful family businesses, right? And what made them successful, right? This is something that we actively study, right? When you have a business that's first generation, you have worked hard, you put in the work to grow this business to a point where you could take care of your family and so forth. The problem comes in when it's time to pass that business to the second generation, right? Many businesses have crumbled because they have made mistakes in that transition, right? Countless. And the approach that we take as a family is to make everyone who's in the business that is showing that entrepreneurial passion, to make them self-sustainable and to invest in them.
Right.
So when you do it that way, and the first generation passes on, right? There isn't a fight for who owns this and who owns that, and you have an idea. Let us work towards building that idea. Let us make it sustainable, and we'll invest in you, right? And that way, when it's time to pass the baton to the next generation, there isn't much animosity and infighting, because infighting in family businesses could bring it to its knees.
You've seen it.
Yeah.
No, I am so attentive to every word right now. I am just holding on to every line. But what captures me from what you're saying is it's not just what you're saying, but the humility that are picking up in how you're saying it. A lot of people will come from your background, have the achievements that you have achieved, the successes you've gained, and they won't be looking back. Some of them might even be looking forward. So you looking back to see how you could empower next generation, how you could empower not just family members, but anyone who, as I said, has a business idea. Try to grow the entrepreneurial mindset, and show them some tips and some pointers. So I like that, and the fact that they're looking forward in terms of the succession planning and passing it on. So there's so many. We just started the episode and I just writing notes already. Another thing is the importance of having the right people around you. I think your grandfather, you can't give him enough credit. You really can't give him enough credit.
Yeah, I really can't. That man is really, really, really dear to me, and really an inspiration. My father is also, right. When you start a business, you really have to you have to find inspiration. There must be someone that you can turn to. A lot of people think, when I have a good idea, is to hold on to it.
Oh no.
Do shit. Right? And you try to do it on your own, but that's old information. That's limited. Right? Obviously you have to do your due diligence. If you have a good idea, there are ways to protect it. Right? But if you don't network, right, how are you going to come across these angel investors that you so want to invest in your business? You have to be able to network and talk to people, invite them in, and learn. Arrogance is one of the pains of a successful entrepreneur. If you're not willing to take advice and you feel you're a superhero and you can do it on your own, you will crash out the business very fast. Right? Why that is so? It is because if you start a business, and there are people that have done it and been successful, one of the benefits of finding a mentor and networking is that you get to learn about the most critical factor about business, and that is failures. Yeah, failures. You see, when you can learn from people and learn about the failures that they've made in their career or on their entrepreneurial journey, that could teach you something so that you can avoid repeating the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? And that is the genesis into why you have to find that humility and be open. Right? Most successful business people will tell you that.
Yeah.
It's not about holding on to an idea and just keeping it to yourself. You have to be vibrant. You have to open up yourself to advice and criticism, right? Constructive criticism, I may say. Because sometimes, you have to control your energy as well, right? You don't want somebody being a naysayer saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. If I can't do it, tell me why.
Yes.
And prove why. And that's how we learn and reinforce our entrepreneurial knowledge.
Yeah, it's not about just chit chat and just saying things and with no evidence, no empirical evidence, just criticizing for criticizing's sake.
Correct is right. You don't want naysayers around you to kill your joy and kill your ambitions. Nah.
Well, let me
They
ask
say
you
that
something.
feedback is the breakfast of champions, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is. Right.
So let me ask you something, Jason. Coming from the Roach background, would you consider that a motivation? The name, some people will consider it a pressure and they'll crumble under that pressure. Some people will use it to motivate them, so it might inspire them. How you view that? I mean, you grew up, since you know yourself, you know your name is Roach, right? But obviously at some point in time you realize what that meant. How do you internalize that? Is a motivation, or how you think about it?
To be honest, I don't think about it that way,
Right.
Yes, my father is successful. He's set the trend in terms of what he wanted to achieve, and he has achieved a lot. but I try to focus on what I am focusing on, right? And not get caught up with the glitz and glam, you know. So, for example, over the last 5 years, I was very, very active. You know, get nominated to this board, get nominated to that board, and most of that happened because my father was being actively honored for his contributions, right? And one thing I learned very quickly is that sometimes when you live with egocentric views like that, because I call it ego, you want to feel good, about success that is around you, and nobody's saying no, but you have to learn to find balance, because if you get caught up with it, you could lose focus on the most important thing, and that is making your business successful.
Yes.
So in fact, I'm on a growth trajectory now in my business, and I have started pulling back and coming off certain boards because I don't want to lose that focus in my business. Yeah. So unless that board is going to add a unique value to my business, I don't want any part of it.
You're spreading yourself too thin right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask that question is because if you go down like the yacht club or so on a Wednesday or arbitrary Tuesday, you would see some kids on their parents' boats enjoying life, and I always wondered, they don't have ambitions of their own. Maybe the pressure of the success of their parents' businesses, they fear going out there and not thinking they could live up to something like that. So I just wanted to ask you a question based on some of those observances.
Well, that's a very unique observation. And my view on that is surround yourself with like-minded individuals and you'll go a lot further. Right? So you may think that, yeah, they're linemen and they're on a yacht or whatever the case is. But what is really important is who are the minds that they are wrong, and do they have like-minded ideas? There's nothing wrong with linemen, right?
No, of course not.
I would probably go and take a ride with a couple of business partners. Some people play golf. Everybody has something unique. So you just have to find something unique to what your little inner circle are about, right? Yep. And you find ways to really spend that quality time and flesh out ideas, right? Rather than going to a rum shop and talking us to nonsense that is not going to add any value to your business. So I tend to find, try to find a balance, right? And if I do find time to do social activities, I would prefer to spend that time around people who can add value to me, rather than people who we just not on the same wavelength, right? I don't have time to discuss politics. I don't have time to discuss nonsensical sports debates, right? Like LeBron ain't the greatest, right? So
I know he had to do it.
He said,
I just had to get to do it. So I really try to find that space and time, right? There's nothing wrong with linemen, but if you do line, make it a productive line.
While you're on the boat, you could be fishing, but discussing our business plan.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I mean, that is so important, because even just from general, I guess, sociology, you kind of become what you are around. The influence of those around you, the people around you, as you said, like-minded individuals. But just think about it, to the audience out there. Sometimes you put yourself in certain spaces where you just feel like don't fit. You know, what we talking about here, what we doing here, something just feels off about it. You might be going with the flow. And you see, going with the flow is something you need to be very careful of.
Exactly. One of my favorite sociologists is Max Weber, and he's a social interactionist. And his model of sociology is exactly what you speak of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Because you know, the argument is society could shape you, right? But you can also shape society.
That's it.
And entrepreneurship arms you with the tools and the weapons to shape society.
Exactly. Sound like a sociologist yourself, man. You might have to write some papers soon. Make some time for that.
Yes, I've read my fair share of sociology.
Yeah. And I mean, when we talk, I just want to switch gears a little bit because we keep talking about ideas. Anywhere you go, somebody will tell you, hey, I have an idea. Especially, I'm sure, in your capacity, Jason. I have an idea. Boy, I have a real good idea. Boy, last week I was thinking, I have this idea. And as you said earlier, you would give people the space once you have the time and so on, you know, to bounce ideas off and that sort of thing. But for the benefit of the podcast audience out there, what would you say are the key elements or a few of the key elements that makes an idea a great opportunity?
That's a very hard question. There are many different ways to look at it. I personally like to enter spaces where there's no competition. So currently, I'm actively building a new company.
Right.
So I surveyed the landscape, the business landscape. And, you know, Rojan, we supply so many different categories. We into paper, we into chemicals, we into janitorial tools, we into packaging, we into food packaging, right? And I looked at this space and I saw opportunity to brand, but not brand from the typical perspective, right? So I started researching branding in food packaging. I picked one category.
Right.
And the reason why I operate like that is because it's easier when you have a successful business. It's easier to find growth through integration. You could do backward integration. You could do forward integration. So I pick a forward integration strategy. I already supply food packaging.
Right.
And I look at the competition on the market. Who are the people on the market that have food packaging that is branded? So you'll figure out, KFC's, the KFC, the Starbucks, the Pizza Hut, the Royal Castle. And then I would have underlined what is the common denominator amongst these companies. Yeah, they all sell food, but they all move a lot of volume.
Right.
And the reason why they could afford to offer customized branded packaging is because they have economies of scale, they have the volume. The opportunity for me is that, well, if I were to just look at it by business and food establishments, then I could technically say, well, 97% of the market has no customized food packaging. Right? So I tailored a printing business specifically to cater to the small man who wants to, who has the intention to to brand and build their own identity, right? They don't have the economies of scale to get that privilege at the same cost. So I had to do my research and reverse engineering to really figure out how I am going to get this cost down. And I found a sustainable way to do it. I mean, it's not no business come without its fair share problems. You know, this initiative, this branding initiative that I'm undertaking, you know, it really occupies my mind space these days because I'm still learning. You know, and there's nothing wrong with learning. You make a lot of mistakes along the way. And that is the benefit of having a sustainable business and trying to grow throughout your business rather than starting a new opportunity entirely.
Yes.
It's like all right, Roach Industries manufacture all these products and export them throughout the whole Caribbean and South America and wherever, right? The easiest way to grow is to invest in an idea that could feed your original idea. So why not manufacture your own labels? Why not manufacture your own bottles? Why, you know?
Makes sense.
We already have the market. So you that is what is called backward integration. So now we're looking at going back up in the supply chain for opportunities. So I like to think about opportunities in an isometric way rather than going into an idea that I don't fully understand. Right? Now there are people that do that, and if you're going down that road, I would say the easiest way to really evaluate an idea is start with solving a pain. Because that is what differentiates a legitimate business venture from a hustle. You know, so you know, one of the things when I look at a lot of business proposals, everybody wants to get into food, selling food. Everybody wants to sell food. They want to sell burgers. They want to sell doubles or whatever, right?
Right.
And that's good. That can earn you income, you know. But I don't think about it from that perspective. If I'm going to a particular community, I want to do something that is not in that community, because that is going to have me avoid having to deal with unnecessary competition. That would stymie my rate of success in that venture. Yeah.
Perfectly said.
Well, I just want to add, in terms of the pain, it should be a pain that others also share.
Yes.
So, yes, just not just a pain, but make sure not just you the only person that's suffering with this. It's scalable. They really have some good opportunities for growth within that market itself.
My brother just started a new venture. And it happened so quickly. We were in Guyana, you know, and Guyana, you know, Guyana have the El Dorado rum.
Yes.
So a whole bunch of us entrepreneurs sitting down by the poolside in the hotel and drinking rum. And then somebody said, "Boy, let we try our next rum now. Let's go drink El Dorado the whole night." And then we try our next rum, and then we try rum from Suriname. And this hotel had every rum in the Caribbean.
There's a hotel to be.
And I say, you know what? There's nothing in Trinidad like this. You know, yeah, because you know the go-to is Hennessy, Johnny Walker, White Oak, obviously.
Yeah.
And then there's so I told my brother about it. I said, boy, we should probably think about starting a Caribbean rum connoisseur. And we can mix it with cigars too.
Ah, boy.
All right. And Yeah, because when we start to think about it, because when we were linemen, the thing about the line, the business people that were linemen, you would never see them linemen in Trinidad.
Hmm.
You know, and they just don't want to do the Hennessy, the average rum thing,
Yeah.
and go in a sports bar. They know about that life. They
Yeah.
want to go to a place where they could sit down and talk business, quiet space, drink some fine rum, have a fine cigar,
Yep.
and you know, just like that, a business idea started, and he went from one establishment in the space of 6 months. Now he has two establishments.
Hmm.
And it's thriving. So an opportunity could come anywhere, but you have to arm your tool. You have to arm yourself with the tools to really assess that idea and see if it makes sense. And this is where I always say my Bible, my entrepreneurial Bible is the business canvas.
Yes.
That's how once I hear idea, I run the business canvas through my mind. And that is how I would know, all right, this idea makes sense, do make sense. So that's training. And you guys being from Lockjack, you have access to these tools, you know about them.
Yeah, man.
Yes, for sure. I think with the business model canvases, some people will just Google that, download the sheet, and start from the first column.
But there's a process.
So they need to understand how to approach it. What is the first column to approach, second one, the third one, and go through the line. You don't just start from the first available column in the left. Key activities, key partners, key resources. Just go down the line.
Yeah.
Start with the pain.
And the other thing is, when you start a business, I could tell anybody, entrepreneurship isn't easy. It looks easy, but it isn't. Right? You are going to have failures.
Yes.
You are going to make mistakes, many mistakes. Right? And this is why I always say to start with the why. Because when it gets tough, you have to turn back and say or ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because I could have been working for someone, collecting a salary and doing what I have to do for the time that I have to do it and live a comfortable life. Right? Entrepreneurial people, they think business 24/0. I don't take vacations. Right? When I'm on vacation, I'm working.
Yeah.
Right? So the business canvas is a very it gives you that process, how to look at the different aspects, how to look at the idea from the different aspects of the canvas to really evaluate it. Right? And yes, you're very correct. A lot of people take shortcuts and try to copy and paste, but it isn't. It's not just like that. You have to really engross yourself into it. You would write a lot of business plans throughout your life, right? I personally know an entrepreneur that has wrote close to 70 business plans. Yeah. Before he got to the idea that actually works for him.
Right.
So it's a way of life, man.
Yeah, and
Definitely is.
It's a comprehensive tool. And that's why I like you mention it so much, because entrepreneurs, you can definitely use it to analyze your idea, run it through. And as Jason said, eventually it becomes your entrepreneurial Bible. Amongst some other frameworks, that we won't get too much into the theory here, with your portals and your pestle and, all these things. But definitely get familiar with the business model canvas, understand it, and run your ideas through it. I always say your ideas, you need to test it You need to check it out to make sure that there's viable opportunities to it.
Yes, it definitely will use that business model canvas to help you build your business hypothesis, which you'll then test. But when the question is asked, why? I hope somewhere in that sentence the word passion exists.
Must.
Yeah.
And on that note, we take a passionate break. We'll be right back. From Ibadan to Helyard, from slavery to independence, learn how Helyard, the Trinidad All-Stars, created the Trini identity and how that was leveraged for our independence. Get your copy on Amazon now. And we're back. Thank you guys so much for being with us tonight on the Big Potato Podcast. What an awesome episode we're having tonight. It's all about entrepreneurship. It's an entrepreneurship masterclass. Really and truly happening tonight. Our special guest, Jason Roach, he's online with us, CEO, founder of Rojan Marketing Limited. And I mean, as he said, one of the largest, if not the largest.
The
B2B,
largest. In the Caribbean.
My mistake. The largest B2B distribution company in the Caribbean. Now, Jason, I want to pick up from where we left off in the last segment and switch it a bit to current day, future times. We're seeing a lot of quote unquote innovation. We're seeing a lot of technological advances. I mean, oh gosh, AI is the buzzword right now. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing a lot of technology being implemented into businesses, and especially in some of the categories you operate in terms of manufacturing and really distribution and so on. A lot of automation happening. So I wanted to get your take, because early on in the conversation, it started even for you and even for your dad in a garage doing stuff very manually. And I guess that would have gone on, as you said, the inside out of your businesses and your family businesses. So how over time, and even looking to the future, has technology and really the digital age transitioned your business?
Technology is a given, right? The thing is that the change is constant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you don't know how to evolve, or if you don't evolve, you can't get left behind, right? So in my business right now I am changing my ERP system, and that is really to leverage different tools that could help me further expand my business. So when it is you talk about AI, now they're telling you social media marketing is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now it's AI marketing.
Yeah, for real.
Right? Now this might be strange coming from someone who studied innovation, right? All innovation isn't good innovation. Right? And I say that to say that you have to really study what impact technology will have on your business and find your sweet spot. But if you're just going to try to innovate for innovating's sake, right? You're going into this because it's the latest trend and you don't fully understand it, you could find yourself in a bit of a monkey pants. So, for example, the AI technological revolution is ongoing, right? But like anything else, it has a lot of uncertainty, and this have to do with regulation, market regulation, right? And you don't want to make, without really studying and understanding it, an investment into something that could be obstructed and coming back again to the business canvas and doing your pestle,
Of
right? Yeah,
course.
you have to look at the environment, the global environment. So AI is trending, right? But you also have to be cautious and really study it at T. I like to focus on one thing at a time rather than trying to focus on too many things at a time,
Mhm.
right? It's part of my personal image as well, right? I prefer to be the master of one thing than to be than not to be a master of anything, but good at everything.
Mhm.
That makes sense to you?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah,
Reminds me of myself as well. I can resonate with that.
yeah. So I when I walk into a room full of accountants, right? I'm not an accountant, so I'm here to learn. When I
Thank
walk
you.
into a room of entrepreneurs, I'm walking in to learn, right?
Mhm.
But I know when it comes to business development and innovation, that's my strong field. So that is where
Mhm.
I would probably take the lead and showcase a little bit about my knowledge a bit more. You know, but it comes back to the same thing with business. Choose one battle at a time, right? You cannot solve every problem in a business simultaneously.
Don't even
If you try
try.
if you try to do that, you'll crash. You have to learn how to prioritize, know and identify which challenges you're having are the most critical, right? Is your challenge finance to scale? Is your challenge market access? Is your challenge technology? So you bite off one at a time. But for me personally, in my business, technology is technology is on the radar right now. I'm investing a lot into technology, right? And that's simply because my company has gotten to a point where it is becoming a little challenging to scale
Right.
if I don't have the correct platform to do so.
Right.
Understood. And I mean, the technology is out there,
Yeah,
and there are so many opportunities that you could utilize it as well. You gave your example, obviously, but even for the audience, I think what is key that you mentioned is you have to know what is for you and what is good for your business at this point in time.
Yeah.
And when you're solving your problems, still theory of constraints, brother.
That is it. That is it. So many things he glossing over here that people, you say it sounds simple, He make it look easy then.
Yeah.
But these are things that people need to sit down and digest every single word, digest what he's saying. Because technology, look at the risks with technology. What happened this week with the shutdown, right? Everybody with the antivirus software patch updates and so on. They have a risk. Your employer, the entrepreneur, would have never considered that risk the night before. Never considered that risk. And then all of a sudden it's just problems in the morning. So you have to know and make choices and just hope for the best at some point in time. You do the best you can and hope for the best. But another thing with regard to the factories, one of the coolest things, I'd like to say coolest, but one of the coolest things I saw recently was the virtual factories, where there'll be a virtual replica of the actual factory. All the robots will be duplicated in the virtual factory. And then the AI will control the virtual robots, which will then control the real robots in the factory. I mean, that is definitely something to push scalability, but I don't know if that is anywhere necessary right now for your scale.
Well, the funny thing is, right, that particular example that you raised there, I went to China November or October last year. I spent about a month. I was specifically looking for two pieces of equipment. I was looking for a robust 3D printer,
Mm-hmm.
and I was also looking for a robust laser printer. And I went to a factory. This factory manufactures lasers, right? And they manufacture 3D printers. And they're 3D printing metal,
Okay.
right? And they 3D print the entire factory from pictures,
Right.
Wow.
right? And they're very, very precise.
Yes.
And just doing a little more digging, they don't really. While they manufacture 3D printers, they don't do it commercially, right? I just happen to know somebody who could get me one of those printers, but their business is creating parts for spacecraft.
Wow.
They build all the components, all the airplanes, all the final components. All those things are 3D printed, and a lot of people don't know. Even like the writing on these microchips,
Right.
right? These things are printed with a laser printer, right? So I also would say to any entrepreneur that is now starting their journey, right? Travel, travel, go out,
Expand.
get
mind.
exposure, and see what is out there. Because if and we spoke about this briefly a little earlier. Operating in Trinidad and Tobago, you're operating in a space that is limited. Not limited from the perspective that our market is small or whatever the case is. Limited from the perspective of you don't know what exists outside. And you can try to learn about some of these things. You will learn about it on the international news and by doing your research and going on the internet. But it really do you no service if you don't go and see it for yourself. I mean, when I go to Shenzhen, I just want to come back. I don't want to come back. Right? The level of technology that they operate with, it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? I've seen they have robots that clean the hotel, and robots that do room service. Yeah, like it's ridiculous. You walk into the elevator, and the robot using the elevator, and the robot carrying food to somebody's room.
Yeah, next level.
Yeah. And you think that when you go outside, you see so many opportunities as you said, when you come back to Trinidad, you see so many gaps. That's why I said Trinidad has so many spaces for opportunity because we lack in so many things. So you go outside, you look around, you see what exists outside there, what's working outside there, and you try to fit what could work, what could apply back home, and a lot of opportunities there.
Of course. I mean, you make sure that you have your market product fit, and as Jason said, you do your research and all that.
Yeah, but on the reverse side, you can also see a market that doesn't exist in Trinidad.
Yep.
One of the things I tell people, and they normally don't believe me when I tell them. So one of our number one product, if I have to isolate it down to one product, it's toilet bowl cleaner, right?
Simple product.
Simple product. You know what? There's no Caribbean island that buys more toilet bowl cleaner per GDP than Guyana,
Wow.
with a quarter of our population.
Wow.
Right? You know why?
They use it for more than just toilets.
One simple reason, right? So remember we spoke about the pain earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about Ghana is that their water systems, it's not developed. So at least about a decade ago, right? So they have a lot of calcium in their water.
Mm-hmm.
And this
There's a backup in
calcium
a toilet.
stains cutlery, it stains dishes because they use clay dishes.
Right.
And the only thing that could clean that is hydrochloric acid.
Wow.
So people buy toilet bowl cleaner in Trinidad to clean their toilets. There are people in Guyana, up in the country, use this same product but in different applications to remove calcium stains off of plates.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? That is innovation right there.
I didn't believe it. But I saw it. I went and see it for myself.
Right. Who would have thought?
Right? and you know what? That simple observation led me to make a product that didn't exist. I call it acidic restroom cleaner. It's the same. It's technically an imprint of toilet bowl cleaner with a few technological advances. So it has inhibitors and stuff to prevent calcium from regrowing. Right? And that product now is a hit with janitorial companies.
Wow.
So in other words, I created a different thinking and understanding on how to clean and maintain bathroom surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
Off
Innovation.
of one simple understanding and identification of opportunity.
Yeah, because the product was being used in a different application.
Yeah, because when people have a problem, better bottom dollar, I mean, human beings are the most creative beings in the universe
You see
until we
that?
find someone else that is smarter than us, right? But yeah, so bet your bottom dollar. If there's a problem, we will find a way to solve it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But let me ask you something, Jason. If you were king of Trinidad for the day, what are some of the things you would do to expand the entrepreneurial landscape? What are some of the things you'll do to improve it? He laughed. I like when people laugh, you know. That means they come with a real good answer.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen.
Just one or two things, you know. Not everything that's on their mind, because I know it's a lot of things.
Well, the first thing is, and I'll probably get some blows to this, but the first thing is I would do away with the curriculum.
Okay.
Right?
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get some blows for that.
Yeah. Right? But I'm being biased. I'm being
Yes.
biased to who I am. I'm an entrepreneur.
Of
Right?
course.
Our school system is designed in a way to train people to work for people,
Yeah. Training you to be good employees.
good employees.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the areas that I would look at. I'm not saying to do away with the curriculum completely. There are certain things that you need to know and learn. You need to know mathematics. You need to know about literature, but entrepreneurship and just to dial back. What about entrepreneurship you want to learn? You know what you want to learn? We have to teach people how to manage money.
How to make
Financial
money, make
literacy.
money.
financial literacy. That's a big part of entrepreneurship, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't manage money, you can't run a business. Think about it,
No, it's a perfect assertion.
right?
Bang on.
And there are certain elements in the school system that has changed, right? Discipline is out the door. You can't be a successful business person if the school system has no discipline, right? We see, uniforms are being misused. They're not following the rules. Everybody knows best. People creating their own rules now,
Yeah.
right? All of these things comes down and it affects us, right? And this is why I'm on YBTT board. It's part of me adding my value to an educational system because I consider YBTT to be an educational system. In fact, we have been doing it for such a long time and getting better each year, right? But we need programs like this to scale it further. And the faster we get the political landscape to understand, the better for us. Because in this country, who makes up Trinidad and Tobago? We are 35% Afro-Trinidadian, we are 35% Eastern Indo-Trinidadian. Then we have the mixed races and so forth. Each segment of society have their own story, right? What our education system has done over the years for Afro-Trinidadians, I must say it has pivoted us to really become employees. As opposed to indentured farmers that came out of the Indo-Trinidadians. They tend to be a little more entrepreneurial because they came up through farming, right? And earning their own income. And that's why you see the East Indians have a lot of mini marts and stores and shops and groceries that have grown over the years. Doubles, so we have to kind of even the playing field. What are the lessons that we can learn from that East Indian story? Because it is a success.
Yes.
And how do we nationalize it? Right? So from the entrepreneurial perspective, if I was leader of the country, I would find more formal ways to transfer entrepreneurial skills and the prerequisites that will support it into the education system. This is why I am on boards like YBTT and UTT, to bring that perspective.
Brilliant.
Hey,
Brilliant.
You have my voter. I just letting you know from now.
Yeah. It's all good. Well, I actually came across a report from McKinsey & Company that spoke to the entrepreneurship zeitgeist, the plan for Germany 2030, and they have a very structured plan in terms of how to get the country to accept entrepreneurship more. In fact, let me just quote this from the report. One of the goals is the entrepreneurial spirit must be cultivated from early on, and entrepreneurs seen as critical members of society who do good and lead responsibly to bring the country forward as a whole. Failure is seen as a stepping stone on the path to greater opportunity, prosperity, and social impact. And that's one of the major goals of the entire project. They go into details in terms of their plan, how they're going to accomplish it, but I just wanted to mention that quote. I think it was a lot is very, very in line with what you were saying.
Superb.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship education.
At an early age.
At an early age. And inculcating it, as Jason said, into our education system
Mhm.
I mean,
And I would even say into our social system.
Exactly.
yeah, but the key in terms of what was just said is that we have to find a way to capture it early on.
Early.
We
Yes.
don't really
Yes.
have an issue so much at the university or the tertiary level.
Mhm.
We don't have the issue there so much.
Mhm.
I mean, when I went into UTT and I look at some of the programs that we have in agro processing and marine biology, in cybersecurity, and I mean, it's amazing, you know.
Mhm.
But these things need to be more visible, right? And that's my agenda, to make these things a little more visible, and also to try to get some aspect of entrepreneurship captured earlier
Mhm.
in your educational journey.
Mhm. I know they're supposed to be making some adjustments to the entire school system with the curriculum and the education that they plan for the students starting, I believe, this September. So I think financial literacy is part of the entire new plan for education. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes, right?
I mean, it looked like a couple weeks ago, the Minister of Education would have mentioned that she wants to do away with recognizing the top performers in SCA.
Yes, I remember that.
That's a total mind shift,
Mhm.
you know, because it's throwing fuel on the fire, because it has become so competitive to excel academically,
Mhm.
right? Which has its own socio impact,
Mhm.
right, in terms of mental health, you know. And you really have to ask yourself and do the analysis. What is the impact on society? You know, gone are the days where you could have really gone to school and pick up a trade, where there's woodworking and welding and plumbing, and you come out of school with some skill. And these things are undervalued. You know, in this country, we have a shortage of skilled labor
And
in certain categories.
it's so weird.
Try to find a plumber. Try to find a plumber today. You see how hard
Yeah.
it is.
These guys always busy too.
Yeah, right. And these things, and those very same skills, right? They can create businesses,
Of course.
and sustainable ones too.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's
And
just part of a wider conversation.
it's really a mindset shift. Is really at a young age is really how I look at it. No, I mean, this conversation could go on forever, but of course, Jason, we're not going to take your entire night. I know you have business to deal with and think about, and new opportunities to explore.
I need to rest. I really battling the flu,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to disappoint you guys, so I'm here.
We appreciate you, and we really hope that you feel better as well. But actually, my question was exactly on that. Before we wrap up, work-life balance, because we heard you mention before, hey, even while you're on vacation, you're working. You're talking to us here, you're sharing knowledge for future entrepreneurs and current entrepreneurs as well, and you're under the weather. So it really shows that you have a deep commitment to really being an ambassador for entrepreneurship, and I would like to commend you for that. But where's your work-life balance? And, you know, in your downtime, if there is downtime, you know, what are some of the things that you do to balance that and to really maintain that mental health and physical health, I guess,
Well,
family life?
there's no balance for me per se. Actually, let me don't say it like that. When it comes to work, I'm always working. right? Is something that is something that only an entrepreneur will understand, right? You can find ways to to ease your mind up. If you take a business trip, try to take some days to yourself, um, to get some enjoyment as well, right? Physical exercise is very important. Lends to your focus, right? So that's very big in my routine. Try to get my 3 days of workout in the week in.
Right.
I've been doing a good job at it for the last couple of weeks, but right. On a Saturday, I like to go on a nature trip, hike, cycle somewhere I haven't been. Right, that takes 2 hours out of my day on a Saturday. On a Sunday evening, I like to have drinks with one of my business friends, whichever one. But that gives me the fuel, to learn and understand. Okay, what our challenges was, what our challenges were this week, gone.
Right.
What could we do differently this week to be more successful, right? So that's how I structure myself. But there's always time for you have to make time for your family and the kids, right?
Of course.
It's not easy. I tell people, when you decide to get into entrepreneurship, you have to eat, sleep entrepreneurship.
Yep.
Right? It's not a 8 to 4. You're not going to clock in at work 7:30 and finish work at 4:15 and get up and do it the next day. And at the end of the year, you earn your 3 weeks vacation or your 2 weeks vacation.
Vacation.
No. Entrepreneurship is not that. So if that's what you want, right, that this is the wrong journey. But we have to be honest, right? We have to be honest, and a lot of people, I see a lot of people attempt to go into a business venture, and they really didn't understand what entrepreneurship was, right? And a year in, 2 years in, you get burned out.
Yeah.
So know what you're getting yourself into, right? And really determine if it is for you.
Yes, well, actually, just today, we posted something on our social media, because you normally do an entrepreneurship quote once a week. And this week's post, which was posted today, was, you can't do a good job if your job is all you do. You have to do other things. Let that mind shift and then come back a little bit, your body, let it get a chance to relax and then come back again. And another thing, something I saw the other day, how would you want your gravestone to be marked? He never missed a deadline, or he was a great parent, a great father, a great family man. Yes, the deadline's important, the job important, but you have to try your best to find some way. And again, this is something that I suffer with, because a lot of things I forsake just for the grind, But I think all entrepreneurs are something we all struggle with, and we have to make some deliberate decisions to relax.
And the next thing, the last thing I want to end with is that read. Reading is extremely important as an entrepreneurship. There are just certain books that you have to read. So if you're now starting out in entrepreneurship, you really want to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? You want to read The Leadership Habit, right? You want to read Good to Great. That's Jim Collins, right? There are certain books that you have to read. And if you're really interested in understanding what a great opportunity is and how to capitalize on it, I would recommend anybody to the Master Mentors series. Right,
Right.
that's Scott and Jeffrey Miller. Yeah. So you really want to, because they say when you go into entrepreneurship, 90% about that business. In fact, it's probably even greater. 95% of that business you don't know. As much as you would research and study and pilot. I mean, when I started my business, right, branch off on my own, break it away from the main company. I wrote my business plan. It was probably my the fifth time doing it. And my father asked me, you say, why are you wasting your time writing a business plan? I say, well, I'm putting down my thing on paper. He said to me, in your 6 months of operating, that business plan will be null and void.
Facts.
And it's true. And this is why reading is very important. It helps you. It helps you refine. If you don't have the knowledge, you cannot refine the idea that you have and learn how to implement it. Right. So I would always stress that to anyone wanting to get involved with entrepreneurship. Dedicate it's not hard. Dedicate an hour a day.
Yeah.
Right. If you dedicate an hour a day to reading, and you take 20 days out of the month, going to read every day, you can read one book a month. If you can read one book a month, you can read 12 books a year.
And that's massive knowledge.
They always tell you the greatest business leaders, right, read a minimum of 20 business books a year. Very important.
Very important.
Start small and scale up.
And I really want to thank you for mentioning that about reading, especially. Yeah, I mean, you need to read. And one of the things that I like to say is you need to know what you don't know that you don't know.
Exactly.
The thing is, what I will want to add as well is that, yes, the business plan, your father have told you after 6 months, it wouldn't be needed anymore. You know, you could dump that in the bin, but that may have been what got you through the 6 months, you know, because I always tell people the business plan, yes, is a piece of paper for your idea, which obviously will change when you hit reality. But it allows you to really understand the risk, expand the vision better, see what gaps you have and try to fix those gaps in advance. You know, it will still never be perfect. You still wouldn't know what you don't know, as Kendall just said. But I always advise people, put it on paper, at least have your hypothesis down, do some basic testing, as you mentioned earlier, Jason, before you really roll out. Because when you do register the business and do roll out and resources start to go out, you kind of get tied to the idea and you want to make sure you're tied to a feasible idea. But I know you want to wrap up now, but I just had a last question, if you will allow me.
Sure.
I wanted to find out about your corporate social responsibility focus, the CSR focus. What is the focus of your business?
We tend to, one, focus on our employees, first and foremost. And two, we tend to take care of our community.
Nice.
By natural design, coming out of a manufacturing environment, we prioritize hiring people within our community, creating employment within that community, developing people within that community, right? So my father started a foundation a couple of years ago in honor of my grandmother, and we actually teach people from within our community the essential skills to be successful. We teach them how to cook. We teach them how to sew, plumbing, how to speak. We teach them about etiquette, right? So from that perspective, that is where we tend to focus. Me personally, I like to entrench myself into my community, even mobilizing resources from the wider business community. So whether it is a toy drive, giving back,
Right.
that is very important because you can't have you can't solely think about just making a profit and you're just thinking about you. I personally like to think about how do I make my community a better place.
Brilliant.
I may not have the ability to fix Trinidad and Tobago, but I may stand a better chance of trying to make my community a better place. So that's where I start and that's where I focus.
And that's all we could do. I mean, you just need to focus on your zone. And if every business focuses on their zone, I think it'll all contribute.
Exactly.
Make up the complete pie.
Yeah, I
This
applaud
lovely
you. I
pie.
applaud you.
Of course. And Jason, we won't hold you any longer. We definitely would have to probably bring you back sometime to have a different conversation. But so far, thank you so much for making the time to chat with us tonight. I really hope that you get better soon. But I know you're resilient and this flu won't hold you long.
Yeah, you need to drink some Eldorado rum.
Yeah, for sure. All
Pleasure
the
is
best
mine.
all the best to you on all your ventures, your current and future ventures. Really wishing you nothing but success. And we are grateful and appreciate, to really have this conversation here tonight. And I think that the audience has benefited greatly from it as well. So thanks so much, Jason, and all the best to you, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
Stuart, an entrepreneurial masterclass with Jason Roach.
It was a great way to start season 2. Remember how we started season 1 where we generally had a conversation on entrepreneurship? I think there's a similar conversation we had tonight about entrepreneurship, but as I said, on a higher level with a true legend in the game. So I really appreciate the conversation.
And that's how we wrap it up for tonight. Season 2, episode 1, just getting started again. Laying the foundation for greater things to come. All you entrepreneurs out there, go and read something. Good night.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all. So don't mess up. Monday nights, don't miss the show with Kendall and Stuart. Your time to grow, listen up. Take notes and learn. The Big Potato Podcast, next gen's turn.